Welcome to the MouthpieceSports.com High School Buzz Session. Our topic du jour is basketball, and basketball covering the entire spectrum because my illustrious panel covers every bit of high school, pro, college, even grammar school basketball. I will start on the end with the former head coach at De La Salle and Revis High School, a former college football and basketball player, and now the assistant AD at Revis, Coach Jim Tracy. Thank you for being here.
My pleasure, Bob.
The man in the middle is George Keane. Talk about experience, a former NBA scout, a college coach, a high school coach, a grammar school coach, boys, girls, men, women. What did I leave out, George?
I think just little babies, and that's about it.
Little babies, we'll get them going next.
I'm working on them next.
George Keane, pleasure to have him
My
here. And
pleasure.
the man to my right, from George Shimko Basketball School, a former All-American and star at St. Xavier, and the man who put the Chicago Bulls Training Academy together and launched it many years ago. Now with the Chicago Stars, the George Shimko Basketball School Stars, George Shimko. Great to have you too, George.
Thank you, Bob.
Gentlemen, as I said, the round ball that we all love so much. The game itself, we always say this, but it's ever changing. But I think now it's different than ever before, both at the pro level, the international level, the high school level, the grammar school level. Nobody better than to ask, and I'll start with you, Coach Tracy. You've seen the game change, I would think, tenfold. What do you think's been the most dramatic thing that you've seen affect basketball, specifically high school, college basketball?
Well, I don't think there's any question about it. The thing that I've seen that's been the biggest change is the three-point stripe. It's created a game which is much more open, where the floor is much more spread. And I think if you take it, if you've watched the Olympic teams, the European teams, the South American teams, you can really see how they have really adopted that kind of style. And I think the fact that they won the last Olympics says something about how they've really taken to that spread kind of game.
Coach Keane, I had a feeling he might say the three-pointer. I think everybody would probably agree that's been the greatest effect. But the game has changed twofold then. Once the three-pointer opened it up, now the game is more up and down than I think I've ever seen it before.
Well, that has nothing to do with it because when you have that much room, when those three-pointers are missed, there's a lot of long rebounds, which makes teams get out a little bit quicker. The thing that I'm concerned about with the game itself is that you've got some really good post play and you've got some three-point shooters. But now three-point shooting percentage goes up every year. Free throw shooting goes down every year. And that's the easiest shot in basketball, except the layup. So the middle game is getting lost in the shuffle. And I think that's kind of hurting the continuity of the game itself. To me, the beauty of the game, because it's played, you get those kids who can shoot 12, 14-foot jumpers. You don't find that anymore. Kids come out, they either want to take three-pointers or they just want to dunk.
George, the first place we start seeing the effect of that stuff is on the youth and the high school basketball level. Now you with George Shimko Basketball School, you're all about fundamentals and teaching. How do you combat this new kind of genre of either jack the three or throw it down?
Well, it comes more in the aspect of becoming more of a team play. There's a lot of individuality that's going on in the game of basketball, and what we try and reinforce the aspect of the team, from the first player on the team to the 12th player on the team. We try to teach the fundamentals of moving without the basketball and creating an environment that's going to allow players at all levels to understand how to play the game.
Coach, I don't think anybody would dispute that team basketball is the way to win championships, but it's not necessarily the way to get recognized anymore. And getting recognized isn't even something that maybe happens in high school anymore. It tends to happen more on the AAU circuit, which has become a huge influence, certainly in the high school basketball scene. I have an idea where you might go with this, but I don't want to speak for you. The AAU advent in basketball today.
It's a concern for me, for the kids. I really see a lack of fundamental soundness in that particular environment. It's all about playing the games. It's all about getting the numbers. It's all about running up and down and doing things in a way that I don't believe lends itself to creating a more fundamentally sound basketball player. I think it obviously has some positives, but from my perspective, the negatives in many, many cases outweigh those.
Coach Keane, what kind of player is that delivered to us here in 2008?
Well, AAU ball is a double-edged sword. I echo Coach Tracy's sentiments exactly. And it's great, when you love the game of basketball, I don't care what sport it is, it doesn't make any difference. If you love it and you want to do it as often as you can. But it's got to be channeled in the right direction. And unfortunately, there's some elements in AAU ball where fundamentals are not being really enforced. There's a lot of things that are going on as far as I got to get this player and I'm going to go after this player. And
Sure.
it seems like everything is for individual recognition, you know, as opposed to what Coach Shemko does, because he's one of the few people who does it right as far as teaching the game itself. But you know, this goes back to an old saying that I used to work for a man named Dick Motta.
Sure.
Who was
Coached the Bulls.
Coached the Bulls a long time ago. And I remember one of the things that he would say, he said, if you are really, really lucky, when you are a varsity high school coach, you might be able to coach the game. He said, everything up to that point is teaching. And it's hard for some of these people, especially now, because AAU ball is starting in 5th, 6th, 7th grade.
Sure.
And they're just putting the best 5 players out there and giving them the ball, letting them shoot. They get in some bad habits. Now they finally get with a knowledgeable coach as a freshman in high school, and they've had 3 or 4 years of very bad instruction and bad fundamentals, and who are good kids and good players. It's not the players' fault.
Well, let's talk about good instruction. Obviously, we just heard Coach Keene, George Shimko Basketball School. You guys start with the fundamentals and continue to develop it. But your teams, the Stars, they play in these AAU tournaments. What are some of the qualifications of some of these other coaches and people that are teaching these kids?
Well, I'm not really sure what their philosophy is. All I know is that our philosophy has always been to be a teaching environment. Our job has always been to prepare players for the high school level, and the high school players that we have, we want to prepare them to get more time on the floor. So I think the biggest compliment that we've gotten as our program is the fact that we take players from 25 or 30 different high schools and we work with them, and the coaches are very appreciative of what we're doing, because we're not trying to steal it from one school to another. We're trying to build their skills up so that they can enjoy, you know, the quality of high school basketball. We've never really participated in AAU. We'll play against a lot of AAU teams because the philosophy is just a little bit different than what we're trying to get done. A lot of AAU teams, you know, the key is to win.
Right.
And they'll have, you know, 11 or 12 players on a team, and 5 or 6 are going to play the whole entire game. We have 10 players on a team, and all 10 players are going to get what we call quality time on the floor. So that's what we're trying to get done in our program.
Coach Tracy, what does that leave us? Is it time for the IHSA? I mean, you're the president of the IBCA, the Illinois Basketball Coaches Association. Is it time for the IBCA or the NCAA to step in and maybe put some restrictions down on AAU basketball?
That is definitely a topic that's been discussed at our IBCA meetings. There's a definite question as to where do we go with this? Do we go to the IHSA? Does it need to be brought to the NCAA? Because it is in fact AAU, and we're not sure, to be honest with you. We're not sure how it should be sanctioned, if it should be sanctioned, if there's a way to control it in any way. So it really is something that's very challenging for us, but there's definitely a whole lot of questions about the direction in which to go to make it a better thing for everyone.
Well, there's some directions we're going to go to here on the MouthpieceSports.com High School Buzz Session in a moment when we return. Please stick around. We'll be back at the Grotto in Oak Brook for more High School Buzz Session.